Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys are here. We're doing a little rust repair on the 59. If you guys joined me on the last video, you saw we replaced this piece here. Got a hole right underneath the rear windshield. We got all that replaced now. And we're still continuing on with this quarter panel. I'd like to get this quarter panel completely knocked out. I know some of you guys are here, you're wondering, when are you gonna paint this thing? Well, we're just not to that point yet. This turned out to be a lot more than just a repaint. We're actually trying to preserve this vehicle the best we can anyway, without going through and doing like a frame off restoration or rotisserie style restoration. We're not doing any of that. That's not in our budget. We're doing the best we can within our budget. We're doing this on the cheap. And I think so far we're doing pretty good. We managed to get in there and coat all of that with some rust encapsulator. If you guys saw the video, I mean, you'd see we sprayed so much of that stuff inside of here that we got it oozing out of all the trim holes. I mean, this has all been coated inside. We are good to go there. Any kind of rust issues that we had, everything has been treated at this point. I think we're good to go. I think we could start coming in with our filler and things like that. I'm gonna start with this one. This is kind of a really easy one. Here's my piece right here. I've already made it. And this was so simple, you guys. I mean, this is probably like a 16 gauge piece of steel. And I just started out flat. And obviously we got a little radius going on there, a little curve, nothing major, no body lines or any of that. All I did was just take my bottle off of my little Eastwood welder. This is just the shielding gas bottle. You guys don't do stuff like this unless you're gonna put the cap on. Never move one of these around without the cap fully screwed on. But all I did was just get it on here. I take a board and kind of hold it, and I literally get in here and kind of hold that with my knees, like so. And that way you're holding this edge, and I just get in here and I just start working that literally with my hands. I mean, just get in there and just work it, and it'll start to form itself over that radius, and then this is what we end up with. And I've already fit it. It fits perfectly. So I'm gonna have to put my shielding gas bottle back on the welder, and then we'll start welding this in. But before we could do that, we've got to get inside of here and treat this. This all has to be treated. There's no rust through, no holes or anything like that. Just a little scaly stuff. They recommend that you get in here and kind of wire brush anything loose, get that off of there, and then we could come in with our rust encapsulator, which is this stuff right here. Internal frame coating from Eastwood. Here is our part number. This is what we've been using on this part of the vehicle, and they say it works well. I've never used it. I don't know, but people swear by it, so we're using it. So we can see a little better what we're working with. There we go. We'll get all that folded back so we're not setting any fires. All right, so there's the hole from the inside. We'll get in there and get all that patched up, and then we'll come in and we'll treat the inside of it as well. Somebody's done come through here and put some undercoating and things like that, but I want to get back into areas like this. Can you see right in there? It'd be cool to get in there, kind of scrape some of that stuff out, and then add in our new rust encapsulator, kind of coat that whole area. I'm just going to get in here and just kind of work off some of this loose, scaly stuff. It's just surface rust is all it is. You see, nothing really comes off, but just dust. We got that all cleaned out of there. I'm going to hit it up with our Eastwood. It's our rust encapsulator. And we're going to kind of get that hosed up in there. And we'll go through and we'll put some more. After that dries for a few minutes, we'll go in and add a little more to it. And then we'll get in there with the tube. It's got that conical tube that we could put on the end of here. And then that'll get all the rest of it all up inside of there and all of that. Okay, so we got the tube on there. Let's get that up in here. I want it up in this area right here, a lot of it up in there. I think we can get some of that from the inside. We want to come over here, get some of this in. Oh yeah, we got this stuff oozing out everywhere. That's good, that's what you want. All right, let's let that set up for a little bit, and then we'll add another coat. Here's an inside shot. Let's see if we can get some of this stuff up in here. All right, now that we've got all of our Eastwood stuff sprayed on there, we can move on to getting our welder rigged back up. Start welding. Okay, so here's our patch in place, and I wanted to show you guys exactly how I did this. So these are some cool little clamps here. These are butt weld clamps, and you could do the same thing with magnets, but the cool thing about these is these actually clamp the two pieces together. The clamp actually goes through the two pieces and comes through the back side. So it holds the two pieces together. It works very, very well. Let's take this all the way back out. I'll show you guys the way the clamps come. This is how they look, just like this. Okay. You unscrew this here, and this little block slides right out of there. Okay. Well, the way the block works is it goes up in between the two pieces of metal like that, right? And then when you put your next piece in there, you tighten that up, it squeezes them together, and it holds it all together. And the cool part is this piece right here actually goes in between the two panels, which is what you want, because you actually want there to be a gap in between the two panels. That's a space for your weld to actually go, because if you just butted these together and ran a weld through there and then ground the weld off, the piece would just come loose. You actually need a gap there, just a slight gap, about the thickness of a cutting wheel is perfect. And then that way that gap gets filled up with weld. Then when you come along and you grind the weld off, this is all one piece at that point, because it still has the weld filling the gap. So I know most of you guys know all that, but for some of you new guys that don't know, that is the proper way to butt weld two pieces of metal together. You gotta have that gap. So the way I do this, being that I only have one set of hands here, I take the little metal block and I just put a little tape on the end of it. And what that does is that makes it to where when I put this up in here, I could slide that through the hole and it won't just fall through. You're gonna wanna loosen this up just enough to get a little slack in there. Put your tape on there to hold that piece in. Get that into position. Like I said, get that loose enough that you can slide this piece in. And this is how this is gonna work. Just get it in there. We're not too worried about position just yet. We just kind of want to get it started at this point, because we can come in and fine tune it afterwards. We'll put this one on the bottom here, take it in between the two panels. We'll slide our little block in on the back side here. Now it's just a matter of kind of tightening everything up. And again, this would be impossible without that tape in the way. With that tape not being there, these would just, the little blocks would just slide right out, and this would be pretty much impossible to do. But the cool thing about the clamps is now that I'm in place, check it out. I could come in with a little screwdriver or whatever, just kind of fine tune all of my gaps. I want to make sure that there's a gap on each end all the way around, big enough to kind of stick my screwdriver in. Again, about the thickness of a cutoff wheel is ideal. Once I achieve that, I could come in, go ahead and cinch these down a little bit. I could come in and add more clamps if I wanted to. And I think I will, actually. I think I'll put another one here, probably here, here, and here. We'll get it clamped in nice and tight, and then we'll start our welding process. We'll go through one more. Again, we're going to put the tape on the end of the block like so, super easy. Here's our clamp. We've got it loosened off just enough. We're going to slide that right in here, just like that. Man, the cool part, once that's all clamped in, it's nice and tight. And I could come in and I can move things around if I need to. Like this here, you know, I just kind of come in and kind of push around on it just a little bit. I mean, that's matching up super nice. We got a nice gap all the way around. Unsponsored content, by the way. I believe I got these at Harbor Freight. Let's see. Let's get you guys a number here. Item number 60545, and that is just butt welding clamps, and I do believe that was from Harbor Freight. All right, let's throw some tack welds on here. I think we've got it clamped up good enough. Everything's lining up really well. Let's get it in there. All right, so obviously when you're welding this, you want to direct your weld to go right into the gap. You don't want it to be out here on top of the mounter. You want it to go in that gap. And of course, you want to make sure that it's all level. A lot of times you could come in with a straight edge, kind of hold pressure against it while you make your weld right next to it. You can also take a body hammer, do the same thing. Just kind of hold pressure against it, run your weld right next to it. Works pretty well. Out here next to the clamps, we should be fine though. We'll fine tune it right here just a bit, out here on the edge. That'll work. Alright. The key to this stuff is just take your time. The more time you take on getting everything lined up, the better the outcome. As you can see, we're just working our way on around, making dang sure we keep these two layers very, very even. We don't want one sticking out. So, like I said a minute ago, sometimes you could kind of push, you can push on it a little bit with your hammer and then run a tack right next to it. Works fine. Just like that. Screwdriver trick works pretty good as well. Just want to be subtle with it. You don't want to just go bending everything. You just want to make very minor adjustments as you go. Just kind of work it. Now if you work your clamps just right, sometimes you could take, you know, make your tack weld and just kind of slide it on down a little bit. Like so. Tighten it back up. And we'll make us another little tack there. Might scoot it back just a little bit. I think I might have went a little too far. But since our tape is holding that little piece in, like I showed you earlier, we don't have to worry about it falling out. So on a situation like this, I could kind of move my clamps around a little bit, so it's kind of nice. All right, let's go ahead and get this clamp on out of here. Now you can see here where we're just a little uneven. That's what we're working on. As we go around, we're making dang sure we get all of that super even. Sometimes you kind of come through and work it a little bit like this, and sometimes you just need to come through with it. I like to use a thin screwdriver, kind of come in here and just kind of work it as I go, just little by little. Just don't get super carried away. Little by little, you'll get that to fit really, really nicely. Alright, so I think we're done with the clamps now. Let's go ahead and get these out of the way. Very simple to get these off of here. You want to get in here and pull your little block out like that. And then this will just poke right on through. Just throw your block back in it, tighten it back up, and you'll be able to store it just like that. That way you don't lose the blocks. Now we're going to go through, we're going to weld all of this up solid. But you're going to want to go through and do this kind of skip around. You know, maybe weld here, come over here, and you just keep doing that all the way around it. You're not going to want to go through and weld in a straight line. That'll cause a lot of warpage. So that's what I'm going to do now. That's very time consuming. I'll probably speed a lot of that stuff up. And anyway, I'll check with you in just a few minutes. All right, what we've got here is a 40 grit flapper disc. This is a 4.5-inch disc. You can see there. We get these for a few dollars. This is probably about a $5 disc at Harbor Freight. Works very, very well. It'll take down that weld really nice. Okay, there's that patch. That thing is done. Ready to go, ready for mud. We'll get it all mudded in and we'll work our way forward. And then there's that guy right there. Once we're done with that, we'll be done with this whole entire quarter panel. You guys have to bear with me. I do got the heater on now. It is a little bit chilly outside and we're gonna start body work. We definitely don't want the metal to be cold while you're doing your body work, filler and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna get it warmed up in here a little bit. When we were doing the cut and the grind and the weld and all that stuff, of course it didn't matter then. You probably noticed I can kind of see my breath in here. But now that we're doing body work, like I said, we got to get it warmed up. So we're warming up. For now, I'm gonna get in here, I'm gonna wipe the metal down with some acetone. I believe it's straight enough to all we should do is just a skim coat of mud and we'll kind of blend it into that area over there. I got a little dent here I was noticing, and I was noticing just a very slight imperfection there. So we'll probably wipe from the trim line down, work it with our 36 grit, get it nice and straight, and then we'll glaze it in and work it down with our 80 grit as well. Get it nice and smooth, ready for primer, and then we can move on to the rest of the quarter panel after that. This will be a nice area to have done and out of the way. It's just that old cheap stuff you get from Walmart. Walmart seems to be the cheapest place that I have found to get lacquer thinner and acetone and stuff like that. It's around 15 bucks a gallon, if that. Just want to come in here and just kind of wipe in one direction. And look at that, just one wipe. Yeah, so we're gonna keep doing that. Wipe across here like so. Probably should have put 2 gloves on, but whatever. Check it out, man. It's like no matter how many times you wipe across here, it comes off dirty. So imagine if you just did your bodywork right over the top of that, you know what I'm saying? Definitely don't want that. Let's get our mud out of here. This is what we're using. Got the old 3M, works pretty well. Fairly cheap too, man. What is that, like 28 bucks for a whole gallon? It's good stuff. We use this in the body shop professionally for years and years. Never had a problem with it. Now I do prefer Rage Gold for my filler, but man, that stuff's like $100 a gallon. This stuff works just fine. It's made by 3M, so you know it's good. That $100 a gallon filler's fine when you're not the one paying for it. I'll tell you what, when you're doing this stuff at home, man, I'm not spending $100 for a gallon of filler. That's crazy. This stuff should work fine. It's a little cold, so it's going to be kind of stiff, but that's all right. Start down here. Now the thing is I don't want to wipe over the original spot welds. I want to leave all of that because I cut just alongside of those spot welds because I wanted the spot welds to be left behind so that this all still appears to be factory once we're done with it. And there wasn't any need to cut any of that off anyway, so get all this wiped in here. Hopefully I'm not covering the camera up with my fat head. I like to keep my work area relatively small. I'm not going to sit and wipe this whole quarter panel and then try to sit and work all that off. Now when you're wiping mud, you want to kind of go back and forth here. And believe me, we've got plenty of time to work this because it's a little chilly. It's not a hot summer day, so there's no need to get into a big hurry. I'm not going to sit and worry about trying to make it pretty at this point. I just want to get it on here, and once it's all on here, we could start trying to make it look pretty. We'll switch to a different spreader. You guys remember we had a little dent right here. Now's the time to get rid of it. I'm having to kind of work this a little weird because it is slightly firmer than usual. Now when it comes to spreading all this out, it kind of depends on how you hold your spreader. If you hold your spreader a little flat, you will just sit there and just kind of wipe it nice and smooth. The mud will stay where it's at. But of course, if you tilt your spreader up like this, look at that. You're going to take all the mud with you. See what I'm saying? So kind of lay your spreader down. Unless you're wanting to move the mud around, kind of lay your spreader down and wipe all of this. I do believe I've gotten all the air and everything out of it, so we can start making it look pretty now. Stop messing around, catch it before it firms up. So let's do that now. Switch to my big spreader. Here we go. Let's make it look pretty. The prettier you make it, the less sanding you're gonna have to do. I want to get a lot of those spreader marks out of it, you know, and you'll be able to sand it a lot easier. And same thing with this spreader, you know, the flatter you hold it, the less mud you're gonna move around, and you know what I'm saying? Instead, the mud will stay where it's at, and you just kind of smooth it out. All right, cleanup time. You don't want to waste your spreaders or any of that. We want to get all this cleaned off. I like to make these spreader boards last for a long time. I've had this one forever, but it's starting to run low. And oh, Roger Flurry, one of my big channel supporters, much appreciated guy, He sent me a brand new one of these, so when this does run out, we've got a brand spanking new one. And God, I'll guarantee you I can make that thing last 2 years. Get some of our old wash grade lacquer thinner here. Clean off our spreaders. And we'll clean up the old board here. These things cost around 20 bucks. So why waste them? When you're on a budget, you know, you don't want to waste money on silly stuff like that when you can make them last for a really long time. If you just, I mean, what's it take? A little splash of lacquer thinner on a rag and I can reuse this page. And I promise you, man, through this entire 59 Coronet project, we will probably only use about maybe 4 sheets in all. All right, so we're gonna cheat a little here, and I'm gonna throw on a sheet of 40 grit onto my little palm sander here, and we're gonna work this down with this at first, get all of that worked back down, and then we'll switch over to our block, which I've already got set up right here. That's a sheet of 36 grit on a block. We'll straighten it all out with that, and then of course by then it'll be ready for a second wipe. All right, so we're starting to get metal showing here, here. All right, that tells me it's time to stop, or you need to knock those high spots down, one or the other. I think I'm gonna stop. I think this is turning out really, really smooth. Feels good. So I got smart and ran the heat gun over my filler. Man, that stuff spreads a lot nicer now. Look at that. That's the way it's supposed to do. It's like on a hot summer day. Be careful doing that, because when you put your hardener in, it'll kick really quick, because it's just like on a hot summer day. Just like I said, you're going to use a lot less hardener on a hot summer day than you would when it's kind of cooler, 50-degree day like today. Got the area re-wiped. I went ahead and extended it all the way down here. I had a little dent there, so I fixed it. And then I've already been kind of working this area here. Got me an assortment of blocks going on, even a round block to kind of get into this little contour here and to get that shape nice and dialed in. We're getting there. Out here on this area, I'm gonna break out something. I don't think I've even showed this on the channel yet, but we've got an air file here. This thing is awesome, man. It'll make light work out of that. We'll go ahead and work out. This is a big flat surface. We'll be able to run this air file. We'll do the same thing as we do when we do the block sanding by hand. We'll kind of go through here at 45-degree angles, kind of your X pattern, and we'll work this down. This thing is awesome, man. It'll work it down really quick. Man, what y'all think about that old air file? That thing makes light work out of this. It's really good. You know, we use those to kind of, you know, get it close. It's kind of as a shortcut, really. And then we'll usually dial them in by hand with our long blocks. I've seen guys do so well with those air files. They could dial it in with an air file and just go with it. I get them very, very close. I get everything to where it's all feathered back nice, and then I'll go over it with this just to be sure. And what I did find is I found a couple low spots. You see here where I kind of went in and re-wiped those areas. And it's worth mentioning anytime you're doing this, you want to go back in and kind of work the spot before the mud completely hardens, because you want to kind of chew this area down without chewing this area down. This is all good now. So when we're going to get in there, we're going to knock this down without affecting this area. This needs to be a little bit softer. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to kind of hit that up. You see how easy that's sanding? Well, that's keeping me from sanding the surrounding area, because I don't want to sand that surrounding area. And I got me my little round block here. We'll go in, kind of get this little contour right, you know, stuff like that. And it's kind of hard doing this and hold the camera at the same time, but you get the idea. All right, let's get in here with our Eastwood internal frame coating, cover up the inside. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, if it doesn't look good, we'll come back in and maybe sand some of this down. But I don't know if you noticed, but it kind of has kind of a rough, kind of a bed liner texture going on in here already. So I don't think you'll even notice it. But we do want to definitely coat it so that it doesn't rust. Wouldn't be any point in getting in here doing all this work just to have it turn around and rust later. We'll be right back where we started, right? So I'm going to hose this down best I can, and I'll even switch over to my conical nozzle. We used that earlier. Man, that thing works awesome. I'm going to get down in here, get this entire thing coated. We've already coated it before. We're going to coat it again just for good measure. All right, man, I put so much of that stuff on there. This thing's never gonna rust again. And by the way, when you're done with this, if you've got any left in the can like I do, you'll want to tip this upside down just like any other spray paint and clear this hose out. Spray it till it starts to kind of thin out a little bit, and you should be able to use it again after that. I mean, that's what I've been doing so far, and it's been working fine. I'll even kind of go through and take my air compressor and shoot air in there and try to get as much of that out of this tube as possible, because I want to be able to keep reusing this. All right, you guys, I think we're gonna have to cut it off on this one. I think we're a good 30 minutes in. Video's getting kind of long, and I just realized I am out of glaze. Check it out. Came over here to get my glaze, and I've got none. I mean, that's practically empty. So we got to head back down to the paint supply shop. Not a big deal. But tell me what y'all think so far. We've got our work down to 40 grit. The next phase, we will go through and hit it with the glaze, work it down to about 120, and then it's ready for primer. I'll tell you what, just a couple more spots, we will be done with this quarter panel. We can move on. We'll get this little area wiped and worked. That's going to be super simple. I'm not even worried about that. I got a little dent here, and we've got this. So I'm not going to bore you guys with this one. It's the same thing as what we just got done doing. What I will show you, though, we are going to get in there. We're going to treat that area. All of that surface rust, we're going to have to kind of get in there and brush that out best we can. And we're going to get in there with our frame, internal frame. That's what it's called, internal frame from Eastwood. And we're going to coat that whole entire area down. Even if we got to get in here and drill a hole, an access hole or anything to get back in here and to recoat the area after we've closed it up, we'll do that. We'll do whatever it takes to get this entire area treated. We've already got it oozing out of the trim holes up here. So we want to do the same thing down here in this area. We want all of this on the inside, all of it to be coated. And we'll do that. And I'll show you that. But as far as welding it shut and doing the body work, it's just more of the same, you guys. I know some of you guys want to see every little thing that we do to this. And I understand that. I'm the same way. When I watch some of these YouTube videos on some of these builds, I like to see every little detail that some of the guys are putting out, and I get a little frustrated when they start cutting things out of it. And I'm not going to do that to you guys. You guys got to remember, we got a whole nother side over here that needs more of the same. I mean, it's pointless for me to come in and show you exactly what we already did over there. I mean, we did a video on that already. Why? I mean, come on. I know you guys, some of you will watch it. I do appreciate that, and I'm the same way. I would watch it too, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and what I will do is I'll pick up back over here on this side because that has a hole in it. I mean, this side is way worse than the other side. I know you probably can't see that very well with the lighting, but that is completely rotted through, and we're going to have to get in there and do some inner structural repair. Now, so far on this entire build, we haven't gotten into that. So I've been saving the best for last. And when we come back, this quarter panel will be done. In fact, I think this entire side will be done. I'm just going to get in here and knock it out. It's more of the same. We've already did it all on the other side. No sense of showing it again. I'll be doing exactly the same thing. We'll get in here. We're going to narrow this gap up just like we did on the other side. Line up the other gaps the best we can. And then we do need a little body work down along the bottom. Not much though. I mean, we do have a little dent there and it is kind of wavy. So we'll be straightening that out. All of this feels good. I think all of that will prime and block just fine. I don't feel any dents or anything in any of that. So I'm just going to knock it out, man. And we will pick up on the next video, fixing that inner structural repair. Got to get all that rust out of there, get that closed up. And then of course we'll be moving on to stripping the hood and the deck lid. So if all goes well, by the time the next video comes along, we're going to have some serious progress on this one. You guys be sure to stay tuned. We'll be getting back on this beast before too long. Getting her buttoned up. Got to get the starter, the headers, you know, distributor, spark plugs, wires, all that good stuff. Got to put her pulley back on. Remember, we had to take that off to get it to slide down in here. That was a tight fit. But hey, you guys, for now, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Check out my Instagram, link in the description as always. Hit me up on Facebook, Weird Beard on Facebook. I really appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate all the support from everybody. You know, it's been really, really cool. And we'll keep plugging away on it. And I'll try not to bore you too much. I'll try to keep each video with a little something that the other videos didn't have. That way, you're always picking up on little tips here and there. I don't know. Just try to keep it from being monotonous, you know, because there's no point in showing both sides of the car if both sides are basically the same thing over again. So anyway, but hey, I do appreciate you guys watching, and I'm going to get on out of here. I'll see y'all next time.